You're live. You might be live. Okay, I had not necessarily planned to do a video about this topic, but it's kind of a little late, I guess, the new year having already started. But I was watching a video and I used an image for the thumbnail that I'm not going to rebut every single point from the video point for point. I think a lot of it's irrelevant for this channel or this style of channel. I tend to do a lot more focus on, fashion than psychology, and I'm not even gonna, get into women's fashion, much less women's issues or whatever. It's, a whole other rabbit hole. I could go a little bit into men's, I don't know what you call it, like dating advice or something, but it's not really on. Even if I did a video about that, I wouldn't do it in this video on this topic. Let's say, because I try to, with all the things about capsule wardrobes and minimalism and the pros and cons and that kind of thing, keep it grounded in the menswear spectrum or forum or whatever. But in the thumbnail, as a starting point, I know it's really hard to read because I had to do a screen capture, and so even I can't read it with the YouTube stuff across the bottom there. But in the course of the thing, she had started with, let's read the actual words here. In the resolutions, discomfort spectrum, that's where I got the spectrum word from, and saying that, you should have a little bit of both, perhaps. On one end, you have this urge to push yourself and try new things, but then taking risks can lead you to doing unsafe things and getting into toxic relationships or whatever. And the caption of this was, "This one is for the bad boys," as if bad boys did these discomfort things. And then on the other, and maybe women do not, more often do not. Okay? And then on the other side of this, you have your introverts or whatever, which can also be men, stay at home, scared to put yourself out there and date, or, find a new job or whatever. Stay in the known, be safe, and and saying that should be a balance between these two things. But I think what gets lost, where I felt compelled to rebut that slightly, was that typically, maybe, and I think some women like the danger zone maybe even more than a lot of men. But if we're talking strictly about bad boys, they don't feel so much discomfort taking risks. Maybe it's an unhealthy adrenaline junkie thing or something, but men have to get on the other side of the coin, usually the more dangerous jobs and things of that nature. We're always talking about, why do we need heavy duty logging boots in the first place? Unless you're doing that job, your feet probably aren't in that much of danger, right? That kind of thing. So again, without going totally overboard into psychology, just an interesting and challenging oneself, I guess that's the whole point of the New Year's resolution, right? But not necessarily in an unhealthy way. Typically, I don't make New Year's resolutions. I never really, kind of do. I guess in the previous related video, most related to this video, was the one where I talked about, a no-buy year, which is kind of a concept that people have been doing for a few years already. And last year was supposed to be kind of a no-buy year for me, and I still ended up buying like 30 pairs of boots or whatever. So doesn't always work out. And I still ended up buying a couple more flannel shirts and some wool ones and sweaters, and violating every minimalist rule, I guess, in the book, that you'd only really need, one or two sweaters, right? But on that, departing from, like I said, I wasn't going to rebut all of her points and that kind of thing. But to finish on that before I go on to the next part, like one of the things was, she was saying about having a mantra, which, like, no, we don't need to go into that right now. Like some people regarding minimalist and stuff, they do, I guess, have a mantra. Maybe they just don't think of it in that regards, but along with resolutions, I don't really do that. Like I said, I try to make intentional purchases and not too many willy-nilly things, but if I want to check something out, I'm still giving myself permission most of the time to check things out. If they're not super cost prohibitive or whatever. Challenge self, modify. Oh, okay. Yes, this part I did want to talk about. The whole point of the New Year's resolutions, though, that she says often fail. I will address this for those of you who are wondering whether or not you should have made some proper New Year's resolutions, is that when you set something as a habit, that's usually when it fails, because then you can't modify the habit. And so she was saying, frame it instead in terms of feelings. I want to feel healthy, therefore I must exercise. But, whereas if you say, I'm going to exercise 5 times a week, chances are most of you will end up only exercising, less times a week than you had hoped, or none at all if you, rebel against your own, parameters or rules or whatever. So yeah, okay, fine. That's a strategy. Again, I'm not going into psychology so much here. How you choose to go about making resolutions, if you make resolutions at all, is, a subject for, like I said, probably a different video more than this one. Because, well, I'm not saying no, we're not going to discuss it at all. What I'm saying is I'm going to stick it within, do I have style goals for the year? Let's frame it that way, okay? So it's not so much about my feelings versus, will I wear a tie 5 times a week? Why would I need to if I don't need, if I have a job where I need to wear a tie, of course I'm probably going to wear a tie 5 times a week. If I don't have a job, or I don't need, or, I'm in school, or, so, like, I'm not going to necessarily force myself to wear a tie 5 times a week. But do I want to wear certain items more often, or make sure I go through them in the rotation? Yes, that's a good style goal. You already bought the thing. You might as well get the use out of the thing, right? So, along those lines, more than, some strict regimen based on, a character in a movie always wore this, therefore I want to look like that. And that's not a terrible place to start with a style goal. It's just you don't want to live in a fantasy world where you think you're a character in a movie, I guess, most of the time. And so I had talked about this before, or touched on it before, but hadn't really gone into it too much. There's a lot of women's videos that I end up watching, not the whole thing through. They're usually pretty long. And I'm usually kind of interested in their premise more than the actual video. Again, women's clothes being different than men's clothing, and the way women relate to clothing being different than the way most men kind of relate to clothing. So you can only listen to it for so long before it doesn't match up with, the day-to-day reality. But there's kind of 2 typical kind of these help videos that they do. So this is my rebuttal of those kind of a bit. And similar to what I do in a lot of my videos is the show and tell thing, right? But they usually are, I mean, I've done, pretty extensive videos that have been long, and I didn't necessarily expect people to watch them all the way through all at once. Like if I do a 2-hour, not quite that long, but if I do a 2-hour video about flannel shirts, no, I don't expect anybody to sit there for the full 2 hours without taking a break. It's their shirts, but I want it to be comprehensive. So I want it to be like, I only have to make this video once. I don't want to make this video every 3 months, like watch it in chunks and we'll all be done. Right. But on the other hand, when we get to new products, it's a show and tell, and they do a lot of this, especially in decor videos, but also with clothing videos, where it's a thrift haul. Look at all the stuff I got, and then they show all the stuff, and some of the stuff might have a theme or a kind of a pattern of, topic or whatever, and then other stuff it'll just be kind of random because, well, I saw it and it was cute, therefore I got it, and it was inexpensive because it was a thrift store, hopefully, or it was antiquing, as a lot of the other ones. But antiquing, you're definitely going to spend more and get less than a thrift haul, right? But a thrift haul, the bonus is if you're not, a total hoarder. I stretched my dollar, and I got stuff that makes me feel good and looks good, and that I can use, not just stuff that's going to, collect. That, okay, fine. And then the other side of the coin on that is usually the declutter video. And of course, I don't do declutter videos because, I do declutter stuff from time to time, but I don't film it. And I definitely don't go into huge detail about it. Like usually, again, women, the way they relate to clothes is different than men, but I've seen men kind of do this too in some of the videos. And so, they want you to be proud of them for the rationale that they got to the declutter of why they're not going to keep this one jacket out of these three, because three is just too many. It's like, I don't know, I have 6. I couldn't care less, right? But here's, but instead of explaining for 6 minutes on each garment, you could have done it in 2 words. Doesn't fit being the most common. Or if you wanted to make it a little more interesting for a video, you could have 2 piles, 2 small and 2 big. Also, 2 words and 2 words. So 6 words total would have done it instead of, well, I don't like the way it hugs my hips, and I think it's a little loose here, and these jeans could just be much better tailored, like their work pants. If they're jeans or corduroy pants or something, I don't worry about tailoring them unless it's to hem them. Usually if a woman is going to find you attractive in a pair of jeans, it's because there's some manliness attribute that she ascribes to them more than you treated them like a Savile Row suit. Getting them fitted and all that. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not going to go too much into all that. I don't know that all men dress just for women. I think most of the time we're dressing more for utility purposes. So that's kind of, a negative in a category more than a positive most of the time. Depends on the woman, I guess. And so, like I said, I understand way back in video, like number 1, I think I talked about that, how you may have to dress this way for work, but then when you go out, let's elevate, let's look a little nicer, let's do that. Let's agree to do that, not wear logger boots on a date. You just get that other pair of shoes, even if they're more than you want to spend, and use them, right? Like, again, that doesn't have to be your New Year's resolution that you force yourself to wear the shoes you don't like as much on every weekend or whatever. But again, if you bought it, use it. Like, try. Like I said, I have not as much autumn and winter as I have clothes for autumn and winter, and that's a personal hang up, but not, hopefully the end of the world. But of course, I don't do these videos just to ridicule other channels either. Like I said, I usually opt out well before halfway through. I don't, and I think it's more productive to just speak in generalizations than to what the ones they do where they put it on the split screen or whatever and stop it every 30 seconds. That's, I see a lot of that with pop songs, and it just drives me insane, but that's for another day. But yeah, so like I said, I try to just be more productive. What does this say? Oh, but then the other, going back to the first video, she said, what would it be like if I could accept this moment exactly how it is? I didn't really get all wrapped up into that, but since we're talking about, how we're going to approach a new year, I forget what, I mean, I wrote my notes, but it wasn't what I exactly wanted to say on screen. Let's see, what is actually happening? Well, she was addressing, you get into like, you go out to dinner with friends and the dinner kind of goes meh or whatever, or your family holidays didn't live up to the Hallmark movie expectations, my colorful, phrase. And that's most of life, right? I guess, like, again, going back to the bad boys, some of those people are just comfortable, or they seem comfortable, at least they can project into almost any situation, no matter how, but they're often the ones making the situation bad for everybody else, right? That's why they're bad boys. So how we react to them without being them, is again a whole other discussion. But yeah, usually that's what makes, she's saying, oh, this meat, this pleasant meal didn't turn out so pleasant. Well, that's usually because of other people's agendas. And she was saying, well, I think, I think she did it in a clumsy way and kind of missed part of the point, but she was trying to say, that. But my in her thing was, kind of go with the flow. It's like, yes, but on the other hand, I think that if I can read my own writing, fight dienst, I don't know what that means, versus well, anyway, basically, don't be a doormat. You don't have to be a bad boy or a toxic male or whatever to just not have a position and defend it, right? And so that's a good resolution. So yes, if people tell me I'm not being minimalist enough, well, my defense is I don't care. I like having 36 plaid shirts. Deal with it. I'll wear some of them someday. On the other hand, like I said, don't start this year with your New Year's resolution being I'm going to overbuy because I can, because chances are you really can't. Like, it's expensive, and where are you going to put all this stuff, right? What? I wish I could read my own writing here, but I don't know. It's going to bother me for an hour or two, but I'm not sure what I put there. Doesn't fix. Something doesn't fit. Okay. I think I was trying to say that. I think what she said was that fighting against the moment doesn't fix the moment. Maybe that's what that's supposed to say, but that doesn't look like an I. So I don't know. Anyway, that sounds logical enough to be similar to correct. And this went on 10 minutes longer than I thought it would anyway. So hopefully somebody finds it useful or helpful or whatever. And like I said, yeah, don't stress too bad. But the other point I was going to make, yes, the resolutions and the feelings thing. Again, she was giving you escape hatches to take it a little too easy on yourself, maybe, depending on what the resolution regards. So yes, if you want to feel healthy, and one of the things is to exercise more, then yes, you have to exercise somewhat to be healthy. But like, if you don't exercise like weightlifting and you change the exercise to aerobics instead, you're still exercising. Whereas if like your resolution is like quit drinking or quit smoking, like there's no way to like, if you switch to vaping, you're still inhaling nicotine. If you switch to beer instead of liquor, you're still drinking. Like it doesn't work with everything. Some things do have to be cut and dry. Okay. So I don't know, how to not feel bad about doing the thing that is bad. Again, let's tackle that more head on than some of these other, gray area things. Like if you're going to make this resolution to go cold turkey on a literal addiction, you're going to have a tough time with it. So again, not a subject that I wanted to necessarily go deep on in a fashion video. But same along those lines. Like I said, if you're doing thrift hauls every couple months because you have a gaps to fill in your wardrobe and it's seasonal, great. If you're doing thrift hauls every other day because you're a shopaholic, then you might need to address that with it. a more stern resolution or a more stern plan or a more concrete plan of action than just writing it down on a calendar and hoping it comes true, right? Okay. That's my pep talk part of the fashion video. But I do, like I said, think I've already addressed a lot of the fashion issues anyway, and these aren't videos that people watch very often or very all the way through, and I already did, what, 3 of them in like last couple weeks that were about, clothing, color choices, and that kind of thing. So you can go back and watch those if you think I'm, missed the point or something, or if you have any questions, and naturally put them in the comments, which I was going to say 2 minutes ago, but then talked for a little bit longer, but not too bad. Okay. Signing out.